Hello, it's Parm King, the Dungeon Master for the Curse of Strahd campaign called Legends of Barovia. Yesterday we were able to successfully stream our first session. I had a low internet connection, so I could play the game. I wasn't successfully able to stream it. However, we did, and the whole video is online. But today I want to talk about using Foundry in-game. Now, not only as a dungeon master, but some tips and tricks that I use during the game session not to interrupt gameplay. One of the things as a dungeon master we're concerned about, whether you're playing on a tabletop or in a virtual system, is slowing down the gameplay because you're trying to figure something out. And what's amazing about the Foundry platform is we can do a lot of things in-game as we're playing that doesn't slow the gameplay and actually heightens the experience for the players. The first one I want to show you is, and we'll see a video here, a snippet of it, is our players are escorting Irina. They've gotten her to the town of Vallaki. They're in an inn, but they're concerned. They've been attacked several times by zombies and wolves and skeletons, and they want to make sure she's protected for the night. And they want to bar the windows. Now, they're trying to figure out how to do that. There's some shutters on the windows. And I could just do this with Theater of the Mind, of course, but Foundry allows us to do some stuff on the fly. So I'll show you what I came up with just on the fly as we're playing to continue to allow the players to have that immersion experience. Now, as a Dungeon Master, you're going to see this from my perspective, but if I click on a character, you can see their Fog of War, and we're going to go ahead and start with this one. You can see I have one of the characters selected. This is Irvan, one of the Blood Hunters, and this is what he sees from his Fog of War perspective. Now, he doesn't see the numbers on the screen. Those are some notes I use for the game, but let's go ahead and watch this, and I'll show you what I do, and I'll talk through it. All right, here we go.
There's just shutters that we can close and
I mean, if we look in there, are there shutters that we can close?
Yeah, there actually is shutters on the outside. You can close the shutters. You can see there's, if you look
Oh, great. Well, that's basically the same as firing it.
So right here, I'm telling you there's some shutters here they can close. We're trying to find some wood maybe to bar the windows. I mentioned that there's some shutters that they can go ahead and try to close here.
Yes.
And then, I don't know, is there a druidic spell to, like, fuse wood?
So this particular room right here is going to be Irina's room, and they want to close the shutters or bar the shutters. Now, I've brought up the walls here in Foundry, and what I first did accidentally is put a glass wall. I didn't want to change the walls, but I want to do something to give them the experience that the shutters were closed from their Fog of War perspective. Here I selected the masking wall, and I just draw a line over the two windows so that I've just closed their frame of view. They're shut down their Fog of War so they can't see out. And for the player's experience, you can see now as I click on the character, he can't see out the window anymore. That gives them the experience that the windows and the shutters are barred.
Yeah, that works. Yeah, that works. They're blocked.
The one at the bottom, yeah. But it.
No, both of them are. Both of them are.
Both of them are, yeah. Okay, yeah. Right. I can only see a small, tiny thing on the other.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Okay, cool. Well, those windows are now barred. Job done. We checked out the rooms. Let's go back downstairs.
Okay, that was perfect. The characters went through some role playing. They were looking for some woods. They realized the windows had shutters. They shut the shutters, barred the shutters, and what I was able to do in Foundry was give them that experience from the Fog of War experience by using those two masking walls just on the outside. I didn't have to change any of the structure. Just laying those down in-game allowed the players to have that experience that the shutters were closed. Let's go to the next video here. This one here is the characters had not had any encounters this entire session, and I wanted to give the characters a sense of urgency to lower their guard a little bit. Now they've gotten to Vallaki, they've explored a little bit, they're staying up in the room. They feel secure enough by barring the windows, closing the shutters, that Irina down in this room is safe. The Bloodhunter brothers are staying in this room, and our other players are down here. Now the players, this is a time during usually a long rest that I let the players talk among themselves about some different ideas and stuff like this. This is just a free time for them to talk. But I asked them specifically, do you stand watch? Are you going to secure yourselves for the night? They decided they did, and I decided on the fly to come up with an interesting encounter. So I'm going to go ahead and play this now. Notice the 2 doors are open. I'm going to show you how I did an encounter on the fly, and I actually created a token as well. Now, I recommend in your actor section, create some folders in there for some characters that you want to drop in at any time, some monsters or creatures or NPCs at any time. I went ahead and have my folder separated by villages and NPCs, but I have the red folder, which are all creatures. So let's go ahead and watch this, and you can see me play create a encounter on the fly, and I talk about some of the roles too as we go through this.
Give myself advantage on a roll, and I know for certain it's gonna be a crit with a smite. It's if I can just keep that in the chain.
I decided to come up with a poltergeist because the poltergeist is an interesting creature. It can travel through some walls and doors. I'm reading a little bit about it. I've never used a poltergeist in this encounter yet, and so now I'm doing a little research, letting the players talk among themselves to figure out what is the best encounter for this particular scenario. I don't want to be a deadly encounter, but I do want to put Irina at risk.
Like the other Lebanese.
Notice here that they can move through walls. I'm reading about that. So even if they shut the door before the evening, I can go ahead and have this creature get in to the inn and put Irina at risk. So this was really important, is finding the right encounter for the right scenario. Remember, they barred the windows, so that'll keep the werewolves and other creatures out, but a poltergeist can travel through doors, walls, etc.
Because it's a paladin that I'm playing, but I kind of see that prayer as kind of tapping into a mantra that.
Now I'm listening to the players talk, but at the same time, off screen, I'm looking for a good photo to use for the poltergeist, because I'm going to actually make a token as well on the fly. Now I do have VTTAssets tokenizer. I'll put a link to the bottom. That's a module that I'm using to create a token really fast on the fly. You'll see this in game when I create the token.
Get the favor of your god. Why do you have to I see it as getting and expending favors.
So they're talking about a mechanic that I added into the game. It's a homebrew mechanic that I allow my clerics and paladins to pray to a god to get a blessing. They roll a dice to see if they get that blessing, and they can apply it to a critical roll or whatever. Here I'm going ahead and making the token. I found a picture that I like for this particular character, the poltergeist, and now I'm going to go ahead and upload the picture there. There it is. And I'm going to go ahead and upload it into the tokenizer. It's kind of making a token on the fly in-game, which is really nice. I really like this VTTAssets tokenizer. I'm just going to zoom in. So this is what the characters will see, is this poltergeist that I just created on the fly for this encounter.
Yeah, but you can't gain another favor from them until like 7 days.
It's loading it up.
So that's, I guess, what Tim was saying, that you can't.
Now, one of the suggestions I always make is you're going to be pulling an encounter into the screen. Don't pull it in where it's visible. I always take it somewhere off screen to pull it in first, where the characters can't see it, and then I make it invisible. There we go.
What did you have in mind?
So they're asking me a question about this discussion about the prayer roll tables. So I'm keeping one ear, well, I actually only have one working ear, but I'm keeping one ear open to listen to what the characters are talking about so I can answer their question while I'm multitasking, building this encounter on the fly in game.
Using it as kind of like, that you're just collecting them, building a whole book of these things up, using them off. That was just my, the part of this is game testing some of those ideas, and so allowing you guys to, I'm really just listening to what you guys have to say and thinking about how to incorporate it, because I really like the idea of the prayers. I think it's a really cool mechanic.
So one of the things I'm telling to the characters is I created with this homebrew rule that I really like, but I'm letting the players, change it a little bit and getting their feedback, because I really want to include this mechanic in my games going forward. So it's important to get feedback and welcome that criticism and suggestions from your player on this particular mechanic. And I'm going to make a separate video about the prayer mechanic, which is really good. Okay, now I'm going ahead and moving the creature into a location, and I'm going to move this along. Sometimes you got to push your characters a little bit and kind of in their open conversation to bring the counter back in. So this is kind of the closing of the day. They're about to go into their long rest, and I'm going to now
If you only get
create
it
this
for a
encounter.
day, you feel compelled to use it, which
Yeah, I feel like this just lasts for one day, right? Just makes sense.
I mean, yeah.
So what I'm doing now is trying to look for some sound effects to see if I have them in there. Again, on the fly, I don't, so I throw in some extra sound effects in here. I'm just searching if I have any for this particular encounter that I want to use. I don't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load a couple of sounds in there just to add some ambiance and some mood to this encounter. So a couple of things I'm setting up for this encounter. I'm going to darken the lights, so it's going to go dark. It's going to be a long rest. I'm finding a couple of sound files that I want to use in here. And this is that time period to give the players to talk a little bit before you kind of shut it down and move into the evening encounter or the evening watch scenario. I still don't know if the players are going to stand watch. I still don't know if they're going to leave these doors open. I'm not telling them anything yet. I'm just going to always make sure. One thing about the Dungeon Master that you always want to do is you don't want to help the players so much, but you just want to make sure that they're doing exactly what they want to do and give them the most, as many opportunities as they can. But I'm one of those Dungeon Masters. I like to give opportunities, but if they're not going to take them or they feel that they're done, then I'm going to move forward with that encounter. And that's what exactly happens here. Here I'm adding a soundtrack that I'm going to play. I'm going to my music directory, and I am I'm going to use the background sound effect for Count Lugosi's Manor, and I'm also going to use the background sound effect from the woman screaming from Count Lugosi's Manor in this to add to the flavor of the experience. Kind of up the excitement and the stress for the players. Players are feeling really relaxed right now. And what you want to do is when they're relaxed and their guard is down, that's when you want to heighten the stress and the excitement for your players. So I'm adding this song called "Haunting."
Already chambered. Kind of.
What
Maybe that's too.
when you get a 1?
Well,
If you
I'm
I'm
feel
going to add one more sound effect here, which is the woman screaming.
It's too harsh.
So I've got the haunting sound, which I'm going to use as the poltergeist comes into the room. That's this one right here. And I am going to create the screaming sound effect as well. Now, one of the things that I think is important as a dungeon master is always managing your time. So I don't want to give the players the feeling that I'm railroading them, but I want them to, there's in character, out of character, or there's time where they're talking, and then you want to bring them back into the encounter or move time forward, and that's what this period allows me to allow them have a discussion at the same time I get to set up this encounter.
Everybody's in the room, her curtains or her shutters are shut. And anything else? Or are we good to go?
Well, I'm gonna make my check to roll and to learn haste. I don't know what the DC is though. 15, right? Because it's a class feature or
Yes.
subclass. So okay. Then let's see what's gonna happen. Nope.
Oof. Don't you get more buffs because you're a paladin?
Yeah, Caroline's not gonna have
Nope. That was a shitty roll. Well, did you manipulate my dice roll?
So I just made it nighttime.
Sorry.
either. It's
I
starting,
think. Oh, dude.
it's starting to get quiet. You guys are all sleeping in your beds.
You can always roll again in the morning.
And I've asked them a couple times, are you sure you got everything? You're sleeping, they're in bed.
All of a sudden, you kind of hear this.
Oh wait, who are we putting on watch?
Fuck, we forgot about watch order.
You
Yeah.
left it.
You guys
Oh.
insane. And you can't go shut your doors. What are you guys doing? You get nothing.
Oopsie.
Okay, so I asked them 3 times, is everything ready? Yes, we're in bed, everything, they're not standing watch. They didn't shut the doors. I checked him. He went and shut the door. I said, you guys are asleep. I did. So now I've got the music playing in the background.
Be waking up in the middle of the night because he slept early. So I'm guessing first watch would be not happening, but usually Ilianas wakes up in the middle of the night anyway. anyways.
So I got the creepy music playing in the background. Ilianos wants to tell me that he's waking up during the night because he had a long rest.
But, he usually likes to keep to himself in the middle of the night.
So you.
I'm going to have him roll a check.
Let me see here. Ilianos, go ahead and roll a d20. Just
Sure.
a d20.
So I want him to roll a perception check. If he gets up, if he hears or notices anything, if he rolls over a 10, usually give him about a 50%. He rolls a 2.
Get up and stir a little bit, do your business or whatever, and then you just go back to sleep.
He goes back to sleep. So I let him wake up, but I'm going to roll that D20 die if he gets a 10 or higher. Now I bring the poltergeist in. They didn't hear him.
Yes.
I want everybody to roll their perception check. I want a perception check from everybody.
So I want everybody to roll a perception check right now because Irina is going to call out, and I want to know if they hear her initially, the poltergeist going in, and her initial calling out.
What's happening in the room?
And this was a DC 15 and DC 15, and they all fail.
Oof.
Is that
We
everybody?
rolled 2 ones.
Everybody's sleeping.
So the first perception check was for Ilianos. When he woke up, he didn't see anything. The second one was a DC 15
Thematically.
to see, and gave everybody the idea. So this poltergeist is now actually in her room. So I've given them 2 opportunities. One a really low one at DC 10, the second one at DC 15, and now combat's going to start. Now I'm going to add a sound effect in here of a woman screaming,
Fucking hell.
which
Sidetracked by rule talk.
and they talk about it. They get sidetracked by rule talk. So now I'm creating a situation that's going to create some stress in here, and I'm going to add in the woman crying right now.
How did that?
Okay, so if you guys are really quiet, you hear this.
Oh boy, it's her again. God damn it.
No, it's Iliana. She's crying in her room,
It's actually an arena.
and you wake up
That's-
to her screaming, and
That's Arena?
that's Irina, and
We run.
she is
Oh boy.
under attack.
The fuck?
I want to see this. I want to see this.
So it's dark now.
Fighting.
What I wanted to do is, because they missed both their perceptions checks, now she screams. So at this point, I decided that the poltergeist is going to get the first attack on Irina. They had 2 opportunities. They missed both the opportunities. Now they hear her screaming because she's been attacked by the poltergeist. I'm going to go ahead and roll damage on Irina by the poltergeist at this point.
Leaning over Irina and just ready to take a swipe at her, and she's screamed. She is screamed out here. So I'm gonna just do the creature's gonna get a first attack on Irina. I'll add you in there too. Let me add you all in there.
So what I did was I added all the players into the combat encounter, but before rolling initiative, what I did was just have the poltergeist land this first kind of surprise attack on Irina while she's sleeping. So now they're going to be all rolling for initiative at this point, but I'm not going to start combat until after the creature gets the first attack in on Irina.
Of course, Irvin rolled first. Irvin always gets first in the
So here's my roll on Irina. It hits Irina on attack of 17 for 11 damage.
The creature swipes and hits Arena, and it just she just kind of she's thrown back against the wall. She's like lifted up out of the bed, thrown against the wall, and she's almost knocked unconscious. And that creature turns to you and goes. So Arena's taken some damage, and she's been thrown up against the wall.
How good is she at fighting?
She's knocked out.
Oh shit.
Well,
You said close to knocked out, no?
yeah,
She's not dead,
She's not dead. She just got thrown up against the wall, and
just stammer. Yeah. Putting her in a room.
So now I'm going to go ahead and start combat at this point. The poltergeist is swiped and thrown arena against the wall. She's taken some damage and she's been knocked out. And I'm going to begin
I
combat.
can't see shit.
Yeah, you just gotta.
You can walk into the room.
You see
Now,
everybody, like,
I have this
taking-
automatic combat music start. When we go into combat, the music starts. You can actually hear Oleg sing the combat music.
How much will it take? 20?
5, 10,
Right?
15, yeah. From your bedroom, 5, 10, 15, 20. You can say you can get in there.
Okay. Let's take this. Yep. I'm the. Okay. Yeah. Fuck this. Okay. So let's take the silver short sword out and attack with it. Give me a second.
Each player, I only give them 60 seconds to do their turn. If they don't complete it within the 60 seconds, they get whatever they get done, and it goes to the next player. He goes ahead and attacks with the short sword and rolls a 6. He makes a mistake and rolls some additional dice here. I'm also using turn marker, which actually helps the players see the combat in this situation. So he does 6 damage to the poltergeist.
I did see it. Okay, never mind. So, sorry.
And he doesn't have something added in here. Now, one of the things I do is the Dungeon Master, if you forget to set something up or add proficiency bonus, I don't let you do over. I feel that the player should be prepared and have any macros or anything done before any combat, so I don't let them fix anything in combat. However,
More than 15.
Herhan reminds him that, and Elise reminds him that he forgot to include his proficiency bonuses in there.
It only added your dex.
Fix it now, later,
Yeah.
after your
Yeah. Just
Do it now. Do it now.
I just finished it. I can't attack twice.
Yeah, so
That was great.
I think that's Irvin's turn.
That's Irvin's turn.
so we go to the next player. There's a time tracker at the bottom that allows the players to know it's ticking off, and when it gets to the end, it goes tick, 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 tick.
Oh.
Now, I'm letting the players move through each other into the door because we don't know exactly during the initiative which one gets into the room first. So that's why I'm using initiative, and I'm kind of ignoring where the players were initially in the room.
So that means I have an action.
Kai tries to cast a spell, fails, but he's going to grapple the poltergeist.
I guess.
Now,
Athletics.
this is new for me, so I got to play this on the fly. Can he grapple the poltergeist? He's successful at grappling the poltergeist,
Does he grab it?
but
It's
the
a
poltergeist is kind of this
He reaches for it.
creature that can move through walls and stuff. And so I'm going to have him. He's successful at grappling him, but I want him to roll a DC check. He's got to get a DC 10 to be physically able to grab onto this poltergeist. It's another thing I added on top of this. Didn't have to do it, but I wanted to heighten the risk here a little bit.
A 1d20 dice. You have to roll a 10 or higher to be able to do that.
So he's got to roll a 10 or higher. He ends up rolling an 8.
So you reach.
Karma points?
Yeah.
Now he can use karma points. I give my players up to 3 karma points per session, which they can apply to any roll they want to.
You dive towards the poltergeist and you start to grab its leg. You can feel the poltergeist trying to fade, move from you, but you're able to, through the ether, able to grab it and throw it down to the ground, and it's twisting and screaming. It's flailing at you, and you've grappled it to the ground.
So Kai's able to grapple the poltergeist to the ground.
My turn, I'm guessing?
And we're going to Phanos' turn, and he's going to, of course,
Question,
use his
could I
guiding
use
bolt.
Righteousness to give myself advantage on the spell casting roll.
He's going to use one of his prayers to give him an advantage on his spell cast.
Righteousness is for attack and cast assets.
Okay.
So he's going to use his righteousness and roll 2 d20s, and he's successful on his first roll.
Obviously that hits.
And he's going to throw a guiding bolt, which is going to...
On the first bolt.
And he doesn't need to roll to hit because the creature is grappled to the ground.
Since, is it
So he just
grappled?
needs
Is
to
it
roll
partially
his
grappled?
damage.
It's grappled to the ground. Yes. Kai's-
Then do I need to roll attack? Because if it's grappled,
No. He just needs to roll his damage.
normal?
And he does 16 damage and kills the poltergeist.
Nice.
Bolts come out of your hand.
So I described the bolts flying out of his hand, and the poltergeist dies. So this was a really fun, stressful encounter. I had to do a couple things on the fly, which I did. One of the things was I gave them 2 opportunities to hear the poltergeist come in the building. That was Ilianis the warlock. Then I had all roll perceptions checked to see at a DC 15 if they heard it a second time. The third time they heard the scream, but the poltergeist is now in the room, gets the first attack on Irina, throws her against the wall and knocks her out. They come in there, attack, and get this poltergeist, and they destroyed the poltergeist. So what it did was allow them to know that they're not always going to be safe. Let's talk about the third on-the-fly thing that I did in the game. Now this one was completely my fault. I usually am really well prepared. You can see over here, I have all my battle maps and Theater of the Mind maps for Vallaki done. And I noticed that for whatever reason, I could not find my Theater of the Mind church map. The characters are going to the church right now. I go, sure, and we're marching to the church, and I can't, for the life of me, find my Theater of the Mind map for the church. So I've got to create one on the fly, in-game, and that's what I do. So they're walking to the church, which is about a 10-minute walk. And they're walking with an NPC character and having a discussion. I create a Theater of the Mind map on the fly for them to have that experience. And it only Foundry allows you to do creative things like this on the fly, in-game, without interrupting the session. So let's go ahead and watch this.
What would you like for all this information and helping us?
Now what I realize is I don't have the church map. I'm looking for it and I'm talking, but I'm frustrated that there's no church map.
Later, I have some things that I also need to take care of. If you can.
Got to figure out something here on the fly. So I decide just to go ahead and make one on the fly. I'm going to go ahead and create a scene. I click on scene. I'm just going to type in church.
Since you seem to have, you've been around, what do you make of those 2?
And I have a couple of pictures of churches.
Last night?
So I'm going to my...
Trustworthy? Are they braggarts?
At the same time, they're asking my NPC questions, so I've got to answer the questions, and so I'm trying to manage my time without interrupting the gameplay. I'm trying to create the Theater of the Mind map at the same time as they're walking towards the church.
I would trust them to do their job, but I wouldn't trust them farther than that.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
Anything else?
Nope, I think that's it.
I'm choosing a file of a church that I have on my computer. I'm uploading it to my Maps Vallaki directory. For some reason, I don't have a church in there, so I don't know what happened to it. I know that I made it. It could be in some other scene directory folder. It's one reason as a Dungeon Master you should double check before your game starts. But and I later find out that now I have the map that I did make, and I found it and I put it in the wrong folder. I think it's in either the Woods folder or Kresic folder. So I put this picture in here. I go really fast on the fly in here and just make the walls as they're talking, walking towards the church. This is one of the great things about the Theater of the Mind maps is you can make them literally on the fly in game. So I just draw a square box around the scene. I put the glass wall in really quickly. I don't even increase the boxes that much. Usually I like to get it so I have big boxes at the bottom at least, so I can get 8 characters in here. I'm just going to add in the clouds. I'm going to add in some crows. I don't even set them at this point. I'm going to drag and drop my characters that are getting to the church. You can see the clouds are coming in already. I'm going to make this as the mist. This is the church in Vallaki, the scene that I'm using. I see my characters in there. I'm just dropping them in really quickly. The 2 characters, Herhan and Phanos, the cleric and paladin, along with the other character, which is Rectavio, who's joined them on the way to the church. And I haven't activated the scene yet. I don't realize I didn't activate it yet.
See yourself where?
The church?
Nope, I see myself in front of the inn.
Oh, okay. Please,
Well, I don't think we have access to the church map, so
Yeah.
we're not able to go to it.
My
I'm going to do a couple things before I activate it. I realize I didn't activate it yet. I'm going to turn off the grid opacity.
Honestly,
I'm also going to lower down the clouds are a little bit intense.
The deck out before I get sucked into
Yeah.
And
things where I then feel.
I'm going to just activate it for them.
Or shit.
And now they can see themselves here in the church.
You guys have fun, and I hope I'll be back.
And this is like towards the end of the session, so we're going to slow down the wrap up the session here. But
So that he can go and
I just wanted to show you how on the fly that, you know, as they're walking towards the
All I
church,
really wanted from the church
I
is
could
to
make
ask
a
him about
theater of the
any spells.
theater of the mind map.
That's the only reason why I want.
So those were three things that I did in game session. Did the using the masking walls to kind of block the windows. I created an encounter on the fly. Even had to address some of the perception checks and other things on the fly. You know, part of being a dungeon master is you know you can keep to the rules as written. And if I did, I'd have to stop and start reading everything by detail. And you don't really want to interrupt the flow of the session. And so, you know, can you grapple a poltergeist? I don't know. I know they can travel through walls and all that kind of stuff. So I had our character roll an extra roll to see if he could, just a DC 10 check. And he was successful in grappling. He had to use some of his karma points so he could grab the poltergeist. Craning up with Theaters of the Mind. The Theater of the Mind map is kind of like, also can be used as that, you know, backup. Holy crap, I don't have my battle map or the right battle map. I could just create a Theater of the Mind map on the fly. I suggest creating a folder with tons of different photos and pictures that you can create Theater of the Mind maps. You can a church scene, a town scene, a tavern scene. So you can just grab them on the fly. Now, I had this picture saved, so I could just create a Theater of the Mind map really quickly. Bang, bang, bang. 4 walls are on the outside, glass wall. Throw in some fog and some effects and you're good to go. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope these tips were helpful. You can go ahead and see the entire session online. I'll put a link down below. I'll also put a link down below to the modules I use. That's VTTAssets Tokenizer to create those tokens for the creature. I also am using the special effects for the fog and the crows. And I also used for the combat, I have the combat track timer and the tracker icon to show who's in combat. I hope you enjoyed this. May all your rolls be critical 20. This is Parm King signing off for another great time with Foundry and my game Legends of Barovia. Thanks for your time.